Hello everyone, welcome to 7 things you need to know about disaster response. Number 1. What is disaster? There are so many terms used interchangeably in describing disaster, such as major incidents, mass casualty incidents, mass casualty event, and catastrophe. Each one of them have their own definition, but one thing in common that they have is that it is any situation that causes major destruction that overwhelm the coping ability. So, ladies and gentlemen, please remember the keyword is overwhelm. Number 2. Do you know the classification of disaster? Well, you can classify disaster based on its causative agent, infrastructure intactness, and its coping ability. Let's have a look at the example and try to classify it. This is Super Typhoon Haiyan in Philippines. It is one of the strongest tropical cyclones ever recorded. It has affected 13 million people, displaced 3 million people, and requiring assistance from 5 foreign medical teams to manage the disaster survivors. Houses, roads, and hospitals are damaged. So, let us try to classify this. What is the cause of the major incident? Is it natural or man-made? Answer is natural. How is the infrastructure intactness? Are the local hospitals, roads, and communication intact? If the infrastructures are intact, then it is simple. If the infrastructures are not intact, it is called complex. In this case, it is complex. What about the coping ability? Are the local hospital able to cope? If the hospital able to cope, it is called compensated. If they don't have the ability to cope, then it is called uncompensated. In this major incident, it is uncompensated. Hence, the classification for this major incident is natural, complex, and uncompensated major incident. Number 3. What are the phases of disaster management? It can be divided into 4 phases. The first one is mitigation. The second one is preparedness. These two are a period before a disaster happens, also known as pre-disaster phase. The next is the response phase. In this phase, it started right after the impact of a disaster. The aim of this phase is to save as many lives as possible. If you have a good preparation, then you will have a good response team. The last phase is recovery phase. The aim is to return the society back to its normal or at least near normal function prior to the incident. Let's have a deeper look on preparation phase. It is further divided into mitigation and preparedness. In mitigation, the aim is to minimize disaster effect and make the public more resilient to the effect of a disaster. For example, the application of earthquake-resistant building and fire-resistant building. For preparedness, it has 3 components. PET. PET. P stand for planning. It is to have a contingency plan, for example, hospital disaster plan. E stand for equipment. Is to make sure that the usability of the equipments and they are readily available for disaster usage. T stand for training. There are many modalities that can be used for training. For example, tabletop exercises, high-fidelity simulation, drills, and small group discussion. Now, let us take a deeper look at response phase. It started right after the impact of a disaster. The aim is to save as many lives as possible, and in this phase, we're putting preparedness plan into action. Remember the acronym Coast Guard. Coast Guard are the 8 principles of disaster response. Coast Guard stands for Command and Control, Safety, Communication, Assessment, Decontamination, Triage, Treatment, and Transport. Always remember Coast Guard. Number 4. What are the aim of disaster response? Number 1 is to save life. Number 2 is to prevent escalation of catastrophe. Number 3 is to relieve the suffering of victims and relatives. Number 4, to protect the environment and property. Number 5, to restore normality as soon as possible. Number 6 is to facilitate inquiries of the lost victims, status of the incidents, records, and future planning. Number 5. Let's talk about the activation process. So first, we receive a call from the public. For example, "Hello, hospital. We have landslide occurring at Jalan Cheras. Few houses has collapsed. There are people trapped. Please send an ambulance here. Hurry." The emergency department call center will get all the necessary information of the caller, location of the incident, etc. The next step is confirmation or verification process. The caller receiver should verify this information with the police, fire brigade, or the local authority. If the local authority couldn't verify the news, do a documentation and the flow stops here. If the information is confirmed, the next step is to relay this information to the hospital director. The hospital director now have to decide on whether he needs to activate the disaster plan. If he decided to activate it, then he has to decide on the staging of a disaster. It can be stage 1 for alert, stage 2 standby, stage 3 full-on disaster, or stage 4 stand down. We will talk more about the staging in the next topic. Number 6. Staging of disaster. There are 4 stages of disaster. Stage 1, alert. Stage 2, standby. Stage 3, full-on disaster. And stage 4, stand down. The staging are made based on 3 criteria. Has the incident occurred? The directness of involvement and patient's arrival. In stage 1, also known as alert stage or code blue, has the incident occurred? The incident has already occurred, or it hasn't occurred yet but impending to occur. The directness of involvement of our hospital are not directly involved. Has the patient arrived? The patient hasn't arrived yet. For example, our hospital is Pusat Perubatan UKM in Jalan Cheras, and there is fire in Hospital Sultanah Aminah Johor Bahru. In this case, our involvement is not direct, but we are on alert in case backup are needed from our hospital. Hence, at that point of time, Pusat Perubatan UKM is on stage 1, alert stage. Stage 2 is standby stage. Has the incident occurred? Yes, the incident already occurred. What about directness of involvement? Our hospital is directly involved with the incident. What about patient's arrival? The patient hasn't arrived yet. Stage 3, full-on disaster, or code red. Has the incident occurred? Yes, definitely. What about the directness of involvement? We are directly involved with the incident. What about patient's arrival? The patient has already arrived at the hospital. And stage 4, stand down. Has the incident occurred? Yes, but the incident is already over. What about directness of involvement? Yes, we are directly involved with the incident. What about patient's arrival? All the patient has already arrived at the hospital. So based on these 3 criteria, we can do the staging of a disaster. Number 7. Disaster statistic. Do you know that every day all around the world there are 200 major casualty incidents happening? And in a month, it's like 6,000 mass casualty incidents happening all around the world. And in a year, there are 72,000 major casualty incidents happening all around the world. We have now completed on 7 things you need to know on disaster relief medicine. Please do not forget to watch second and third video that will further discuss on Coast Guard and triage. So, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for the next disaster? Thank you for watching.